And a committed life is a life that you've turned over to something larger than yourself. A committed life is a life that is in surrender and means that you're governed by your commitment, not your desires, not your wants, not even your needs. They kind of get in the background. And I gotta tell you, it's just a relief to let go of all that stuff. I'll just say that it's given me the opportunity and privilege to work with some of the most resource-poor people on this planet, people that I used to call poor because I thought that's what you were supposed to call them. But I have been now working with people that I used to call poor for more than 30 years. And I realize there's nothing poor about them, and to label them that way is so inaccurate, dishonoring and disabling to them and to those who would call them that. And from people that I have called poor until I got to know them, I've seen that to collapse people's financial circumstances with who they are, which is what we do when we call someone poor, is to so diminish ourselves and them, because they are whole and complete people living in horrendous, oppressive, resource-poor circumstances, but they're not poor. Their circumstances may be oppressed, may be impoverished, but they're not. In fact, circumstances like that often can bring out the finest in people, that unmitigated joy that comes from connectivity in a family, the tribal nature of knowing that true security comes from the compassionate community that you give and serve. That these are people who exhibit more courage often to live through a day than you and I are going to need an entire lifetime. And people who may not be able to read, but that is not what defines intelligence. People of enormous creative intelligence living in these circumstances. You know, I wrote a book called The Soul of Money, and people often ask me, the soul of money, does money have soul? Well, no. Money is our invention. We made it up. We forget that. But we have soul, and we can give soul to money in the way that we use it, in the way that we earn it, in the way that we spend it, in the way that we save it, in the way that we invest it, in the way that we contribute it. We can give soul to money. We can keep money from being a soulless force in our world. We can have money really rain on people, on projects, on the things we care about. We can move money, as Roger said so beautifully, and keep it flowing towards the good, towards the highest, towards the deepest commitments of the human family and of all species. We have that power every day. You don't need to have piles of money to be a philanthropist. The word philanthropy means love of humankind. If you're a person who loves humankind, you are a philanthropist. The word philanthropy actually doesn't really even have anything to do with money. But as a lover of humankind, we can use our financial resources to nourish the world in which we live. It's bigger than any event in human history. It is an evolutionary leap. The growth of civil society, global citizenship on a scale that no one could have predicted. It is the new superpower, and you are part of it. Your every thought, your every action, your every choice has an impact, has a profound impact. We live in the fulcrum. We live at the heart of a turning tide. And it's a thrill, it's a privilege, it's such an honor to be alive at a time of such monumental crisis, such profound crisis, such earth-shaking crisis that shakes the very foundation of our thinking. And when the foundation of our thinking is actually shaken and questioned, we actually then start, rather than looking at the unanswered questions, we have to look at the unquestioned answers. Let me say that again. Rather than looking at the unanswered questions, we now need to be looking at the unquestioned answers of our time. The unconscious, unquestioned answers is another phrase or way of talking about the unconscious, unexamined assumptions that have driven us to a point of near extinction. That this is the gift of our time for our species. Our species is realizing it's terminal. We have a terminal dis-ease, a dis-ease that hopefully will dislodge us from the unquestioned answers of our time. Just throw money at it is an unquestioned answer. More is better is an unquestioned answer. There's not enough to go around, so get everything you can get before somebody else gets it is an unquestioned answer. People are selfish and greedy and up to no damn good is an unquestioned answer. And none of those unquestioned answers are viable any longer. They're not true. They send us in the wrong direction. They threaten the very fabric of life itself. And they're not who you are. They're not who I am. And they're not who we are as a human species. And a lot of that is tied up in our relationship with money, which, thank God, now is being threatened. Buckminster Fuller, the great architect, the great designer, the great engineer, the great futurist who lived in the 20th century and lived well into his 80s, taught me and many, many, many millions of people. He taught us about the profound distinction of sufficiency, which is distinct from abundance. Sufficiency is not an amount of anything. Sufficiency is the experience, the exquisite experience of enough. And in a consumer culture, enough has no place. Only more has a place. So we're chasing more so fast and so furiously with such obsession that we have no relationship with the exquisite, absolutely mind-boggling, absolutely nourishing experience of enough, of sufficiency, of having our needs met by the universe. It's what you need, not what you want. And that's the distinction of sufficiency. And you can't reach prosperity or abundance really through the doorway of more. More will always give you lack and make you want more. And then you'll get it, and it will suddenly become not enough. And then you'll want more. More always generates lack in your experience. But if you can let go of trying to get more of what you don't really need, which is mostly what we're trying to get more of, isn't it? It frees up oceans of energy to turn and make a difference with what you already have. When you make a difference with what you already have, it expands. We're not grateful because we're happy. We're happy because we're grateful. In that simple sentence, to me, is the secret of a happy life. Gratitude, gratefulness, thanksgiving, appreciation, and in that grace and space, everything expands before your very eyes. It deepens, it nourishes you, and you become prosperous. The word prosperous comes from hopeful and full of possibility. Prospere, prosperous.